I know that during this retreat, during these last days, there has been already a lot of talking and teaching and information. And I'm also aware that there's only that much that we actually can take in. There's like this nice simile, I think it comes from the Zen tradition, of the cup that is already full. If you pour more in, it doesn't mean that there's actually more there. So, nevertheless, I give it a try. I see what happens, and also I see what comes tonight. So, yeah, here we are practicing together, and I feel like it became quite clear yesterday with the questions that came in from you, but also with the questions, the themes that came up during the interview. And there are a few things that I like to bring back into the whole group, because I feel in some ways they are relevant for all of us, and I hope that it's supportive. I hope it is a means to kind of also like giving you the feeling that with what comes up, you're not alone in that. Many here have similar experiences, and maybe you're not yet really aware about it. Like one of the obvious themes that I experienced in meeting the groups was the shared, or like what came up again and again, is the theme of the inner critic and how to relate to that, him, her, that. Yeah. So I'd like to start with something that I know for myself quite well, and I also heard a few of you mentioning it. It's like one aspect of the inner critic is the constantly, jabbing away of the commentator. Yeah? Do you know him or her? It's just like, it's an aspect that manifests, and it can be so incredibly undermining, disturbing, confusing, all kinds of things. One thing that I personally feel about this inner institution is, I think it's shameless. Yeah, it's absolutely non-coherent and just impossible. It's like, I just try to come up with an example. Like say you are waiting to meet with a friend, or say with a colleague, it doesn't really matter who it is, and the person is overdue, and you are waiting already since, like, say, half an hour, wherever it is, and so the inner commentary is starting to come in. And interesting enough, like, it comes from the point of criticizing you. Like, I just give a few examples, like coming in with sentences like, you should have known better, like, it's not the first time that this happens. and kind of, it almost blames you that you try to meet with the person, whoever it is. And then, like say, so it comes and it really has a go at it, yeah? It kind of reduces you to grovel to nothing by its commentaries about what is going on. And then maybe 5 minutes later, you get a phone call from the person that you expected, and the person is apologizing, explaining why he or she couldn't come, and then watch the commentator. Yeah. Suddenly, it goes into the opposite position. Yeah, it's like you should have known that this person has a reason, of course, and somehow it's so shameless. Sometimes and so ridiculous, and yet I feel like the point that we have to look at is how much do we actually believe in what this inner institution is telling us? Yeah? How much do we take on board what is coming from that side? I remember for myself that I think it's even years in my practice and even years into a monastery life that I felt like this inner critique or this inner institution, if it's terrible, actually turns into a tyrant and is, again, shameless with that. It can bring so much misery into your life. So what I want to say about this is it comes over very often with the disguise of wisdom, with the disguise of truth. Yeah? I'm telling you the truth here. Whether you want to know it or not, I know it. and we buy in again and again, and I've done it myself. And like when this inner institution, like when the commentator gets very strong and turns into a tyrant, it can really make your life completely miserable. And it's almost like sometimes it comes from the point of, well, if you haven't really suffered quite a bit, your practice isn't really going well, is it? like to grow and to go somewhere, you really have to acknowledge like that you are really not much worse, or like that you are really quite a miserable person. There's not much happening with you. Forget about it. and we are questioning it. We actually don't question it. We take it on board, and we really think like, in regards to this inner institution, we do have to prove ourselves. Yeah? We have to prove ourselves that, like Ajahn Sucitto said this morning, he spoke about boarding school boys. Yeah, we have to prove that we are a good boy, a good girl, and we are here, and we really do our best. We work hard. Yeah? And of course, part of that is part of the practice, but that inner institution is putting obstacles, putting difficulties into our way, and it doesn't come, it's not a voice of truth. It is not a voice of wisdom. And we have to really identify that. We have to, it's like when the voice comes in, and especially when it is highly critical, we have to allow ourselves to question that. Is that really so? Yeah? Is that what you come up with here? What is there really a ground to that? And if so, then show me what the ground is. So you actually you make a step out of that fear that is diminishing you. It's a kind of energetic field, and if you get drawn into it, there is not much left about a feeling of confidence, of self-worth, or like even, let alone kindness, kindness towards yourself or compassion towards yourself. In that field, in that energetic field, it has no place. It can't grow in there. There's a very nice story in the suttas, and it's about a demon who comes into the castle or abiding place of Sakka. I think, is it Sakka? The king of the gods. I think it's Sakka. Yeah. So it comes into the dwelling place of Sakka, and Sakka is the king of the gods. So you can imagine, wonderful place, amazing. Yeah. At the moment that the demon comes in, and it chooses that moment, Sakka isn't at home. He has gone out with most of his retinue. So the castle is almost empty. Not many devas, smaller gods, are left. Yeah? So they see the demon coming in, and they are very afraid of him. And the demon feels that they are very afraid of him, and with that he grows bigger and stronger. Yeah? And so the devas that are left there, they try to obey the demon, and at first they say, well, you can't come here, that is Sakka's place, that's the king of the gods, what are you doing here? And the demon says, I'm the owner of this place now, and I'm going to live here, and you are my servants. Yeah? So you have, and the devas are completely frightened by the demon. They are almost like frozen. They don't know what to do, because they are there to hold the castle for Sakka, the king of the gods, and they can't handle the demon. So, and the demon is taking over the place and making himself at home, and with the fear of the devas who are left, he grows stronger and stronger. So after a little while, I don't remember how long, but after maybe a few days, Sakka comes back with his retinue. He comes to the castle and he sees the demon sitting on his throne. Demon full emblazed with his own importance, yeah, and his experience of power, like he has taken Sakka's place now. And it's very interesting how Sakka actually relates to that. So he comes in, he checks out the situation, sees what's happening. The devas that were left come to him and say, "Oh, my lord, we can't handle this. We don't know what to do with this." And he says to them, he's completely relaxed, yeah? And he says to them, "Leave it up to me." So Sakka comes into the castle and he bows to the demon and he says to him, "What an honor. You have come to this place and you have settled in and you are now here and you are living here. What an honor for all of us. I would have never thought that this would happen." So I'm making it a little bit up right now, yeah. But basically, what he does, it is he relates to the demon with kindness, and guess what happens? Yeah? The demon shrinks. Yeah? Demons don't want to be treated with kindness. They love resistance. They love maybe negative emotions, but they definitely don't love. They don't love kindness, compassion, anything beautiful. Yeah, that takes their ground away. So Saka was around him, serving the demon and just doing his job. And in a very short period of time, there was nothing left of that demon. Yeah. So I feel this is a wonderful example of how we can relate to our inner demons, how we can relate to those aspects of ourselves that are constantly criticizing, constantly put pressure on us. And one of the signs for them is we are never good enough. Yeah? Whatever you do, it is never good enough. And the inner turn that we have to find, that we somehow have to find in ourselves is, okay, there is this, I call it a demon now, but I don't believe that there is really a demon inside. It's like a negative mental state. So the turn is to see what is actually underlying there. Every so-called demon carries a certain need, carries a certain something that hasn't been taken care of. Maybe an experience very early on in our lives. We don't have to analyze that, but I'm just showing you that what we do by turning towards them, by embracing them, by touching them, by acknowledging them, is we are actually connecting with the wholeness of the experience. And there is more to it than just the nasty, difficult bit. Yeah? And if we look deeper into it, we can understand what it is. One thing with the inner critic and with the inner voices is that they are not really our voices. Yeah? They are the voices we have internalized while we are growing up, while we are conditioned in this life, like early on in our childhood, through our parents, teachers, siblings, whatever it is, or however these voices have crystallized. And they somehow, because when they were talking to us earlier on, we were in the position where we really believed in the truth of what they said. Yeah? At that time, when we were much smaller, had not so much wisdom, not so much understanding, not the discernment to really look at what was said there and how that really applies to where I'm now. So that all was not there, but so these voices, they came over to us as the voices of truth. So just imagine you take them in, you internalize them, and now you are maybe 28, 35, 56, 64, that's me, and they are coming up, And do we still believe them? Do we still have to believe them? Do we still have to relate to them as if we have to obey them? Yeah? Do we really need to do that? So when I said earlier on, it's really good to question this. It's good to look at those almost like inherited luggage. The other day I was talking about, why don't we put some of our luggage down? This is some of the luggage that I definitely find important to be put down, because it's luggage that doesn't really belong to us. It has come out somehow itself attached to us, but it's up to us to say, okay, I see this, but actually I think I live much better without you. I don't really need you. Yeah? So it's time to put it down. Can we do that? The putting down of the luggage happens via kindness, and compassion is also important. And another important tool is wisdom, is discernment, is really seeing what are we relating to here, how relevant is that to my life now, how can I actually take off the blindfold and see what is real at this moment. So that is the discernment, that is the wisdom aspect. But also kindness in terms of actually I care for my well-being, and I do care in what way I'm relating, like in what way my inner dialogues happen. Yeah? And this is where I can step in, and this is where I can say, hey, actually, maybe a change is a good thing here. To turn away from the disparaging voice when you, like say, when you have done a mistake, when you feel miserable. So instead of disparaging yourself, when that voice comes in, to say, thank you very much, right now I do need something else. And to see, like, maybe some empathy, maybe some kindness is much more helpful and much more supportive and nourishing at this moment in time. And I think for most of us, and including myself in this, it's almost like we have to learn another language. We have to learn another way of how we could relate to ourselves. Yeah? How we could relate to ourselves when we find, like, when we experience sadness, when we are not at our best, when we are in a place where we feel like, I rather wouldn't be here, but here I am. Yeah? And instead of then putting yourself even more down, to turn towards, okay, what is actually needed here? What kind of quality or what kind of need is there that needs nourishment? How can I bring that into my life? It's like, at one point, and it was during my monastic life, we did, as a group of nuns, we did some kind of so-called training of how to nourish ourselves. Yeah, even as nuns, it's like you are like for example, you are supposed to be good all the time because you're a nun. But in order to at least bring something of that over, you have to have a so force inside that that needs nourishment from time to time. And we have to learn in what or in which ways we can actually nourish that, those aspects, those points. And like one thing that I learned for myself was that one thing is really being in contact with good friends, when I feel low, to be able to share without getting judged. Yeah? And if there is no outer friend around, can we develop that inner friend that is receiving, that we are actually able to receive ourselves with that what is the right word? With that attitude as how we would relate to somebody who we care for, who we love, who we appreciate. Yeah? If a friend comes to you and that person isn't really doing very well, maybe health reasons, maybe work, whatever, doesn't really matter, yeah? You would not go and sit with the friends and say, well, you should really do better. You know? How come you find yourself again in this place? Yeah? That we would not do that. But why on earth do we do that with ourselves? Yeah? So when I say can we be our own friends? It's a real turning away from criticizing to accepting, acknowledging, seeing and receiving ourselves with where we are. Yeah? It doesn't mean that when we it doesn't mean that we delude ourselves. Yeah? When something didn't go well, we don't say, "Oh, you do fantastic." I wouldn't believe that if I would come with these kind of things towards myself. But the turning point is more feels really awful, doesn't it? So that is the point of connecting with, emphasizing, caring, holding. Yeah? And it's a choice. It's kind of that turning point is the choice to say, well, actually, I can't expect always somebody else out there to be available to do that, but maybe can I find ways of relating in that way to myself. Yeah? And sometimes I need to remind myself and say, hey, metta, actually right now metta is needed. It's funny with this name, when you have that name, it should be a constantly reminder, but it is not always. And so I sometimes I really have to say, okay, metta means metta. And so, but so kind of, and you have for yourself, you have to find your means of how you can develop that. Another way of nourishing, I feel, and it helps me when I'm feeling a little bit low and maybe sad and not quite sure why, is like going out into nature. And it can rain. I mean, I've lived for almost 25 years in England, so I'm used to that. It can rain, it can be cold, never mind, just to kind of get out of this little cell, and I mean almost like the inner cell, like the inner prison, and to move into something that is wider than just this. And by doing that, it feels almost as if the elements that make out this body merge with the elements that are out there. Yeah? And by that being happening, it feels there is a process of harmonizing. I remember even like in the monasteries we do have 3 months of winter retreat, and also like this year I was at Dhammapala. Like a few years ago I spent the winter at Chitta Viveka, and I spent, even in the winter, I spent a lot of time sitting outside. I was just huddling up myself in blankets so that I was warm enough to sit, but I really felt like the nourishment of that, the nature that was there. I mean, I have to say, and yeah, I can say that. Chitta Viveka is a beautiful place. Like, as much as Beatenberg is a beautiful place in a beautiful setting. In Chitta Viveka we don't have these kind of mountains. But it's a very natural, like say, English natural beauty, cottages, manor house, park, it's really lovely. So, and lots of nature around. So what I found really at that time, what I found helpful was when things got overwhelming, when I felt like I had to carry too much and I don't know how to hold it all. Sometimes I just went out into the forest, sitting somewhere next to a tree, and we have in the forest there we have a very big yew tree. Wonderful, sitting just under the yew tree. It's almost like the branches of the yew tree are almost kind of engulfing your body. Like they are almost holding your body. You're under this tree, it's like under the umbrella of something benevolent. Yeah? So I find that is something, like nature is something that is very nourishing and very kind of supportive in a way, because it, like for myself, how I experience this, it allows the mind and also the body to just be more calm, to be more simple, and to move out of all the complexities that the mind can come up with and our lives can move us into. So I find nature very, very helpful as a means of relaxing, of being more at ease. And sometimes I also find just really reading a good book, like finding a good, like for myself, finding a really good Dhamma book, and to kind of really dive into that and kind of relate that what is written about it towards my own experience. Often, like, you take a book, you open it, you read, and wham, it is exactly what you needed to hear or read or to take in. And then that kind of sets into process a way of reflecting about what's going on. So my encouragement is, see, if you know already what is nourishing you, do you have means that support you in times when you need it? Yeah. When we are well, when the practice goes fantastic, and we sit down and we go into blissful states, wonderful, yeah? Enjoy them, yeah? So don't feel that as soon as you are sitting down, as soon as you're meditating, now you have to really dig in and dig out all the heavy stuff. That comes by itself. It really is. It's like sometimes we forget that a really important part of our practice is also to develop the joy, to develop the wholesome states of mind, to develop goodwill, to develop well-being, it's such an important part of our practice. And when we notice that other bits come in, like say a problem with anger or whatever, or sadness, grief, or a very strong desire that can drive you away. It's like that is the time when we do the work with the affliction. But when the meditation, when the practice is really going well, then by all means enjoy that. Yeah, it doesn't mean that you have to say, no, I'm not really working hard enough, so I should dig out some of the sticky bits. They come. You don't need to kind of look around to search for them. They come in their own time, and I know you all know that. But it's like the encouragement is, don't feel like you have to create them to come into the practice on top of everything else that is going on. We don't need to do that. When the time is right, they knock at the door, and sometimes they don't even knock, they just rush in. And then it's the time when we have to welcome them and have to find ways of relating to them and holding them. I'm saying this also because one of the questions that we found yesterday in the black box was about this. Like, do I need to dig in and get it all going, or what do I do? So my suggestion is, wait until it comes. It comes by itself, and when it comes, it's the right time to relate to it, to deal with it. So I feel like that is about inner critic, tyrant, how to relate to it, how to build up some inner resilience to kind of not getting lost in those states of mind. Another aspect of questions that came in yesterday and also at some point today was like how to practice when you are back at home, and how to relate to the complexity of your lives outside of this place, outside of the retreat. And I think for many of us, or for many of you, this is a real challenge. It's like being here, at least the whole environment is set up to support you. It's set up to focus on the practice, to find ways of relating to inner states that might be wholesome and beautiful, or that might be afflictive and difficult to relate to. When, especially with the difficult bits, when they happen outside, and in a way they do, I know that for myself too, they do get stirred up by the complexities that we meet when we are back in our everyday life, when we are back into going to work, family, relationships, and all the other things that you are doing that I probably just can't even think of, can't even comprehend right now. So, but what I'm talking about is how that complexity can be really quite overwhelming, can kind of almost carry us away. There was one very lovely comment today by one of the people I saw, and the person said, I feel like when I come back home, at least for a while, I feel like I bring with me a protection. So the protection is that I'm not immediately getting drawn into all the distractions, all the distractions that are waiting outside for you, movies, whatever you do to entertain yourself, And what I understood, like turning on the telly, going out to do fancy things, when I come from a retreat, I feel so well nourished that I don't need that for a while. So, and I want to take that, and I really want to encourage you. When you get home, is there something like that? Is there something that you take with, that you can be aware, like turn your awareness towards that? There is actually something you bring with. There is a certain, it's almost like tangible. It's a certain protective energy, I would say, that, and it is protective in the way that you know when you are here and you are living in a field of simplicity and values that are really important for you. Like that brings a feeling of contentment, at least to some degree, I hope. That brings that place where you feel safe, where you feel nourished, where you feel, this I would like to have that, or I would like to take that also with into lay life. And I can't say what it is for you, but I want to encourage you, look while you are still here, what are those qualities, what are those energies, those mind states that help you to create a certain kind of protection, to keep, at least for a while, the simplicity. And even if it's just for a day, you come home, don't immediately go into the old habits of doing this and that. Maybe just give yourself the freedom to have a day where you just see how it is just to be. Not to be somebody, to be something, but just to be here. And maybe your reality looks like you come back home next day is working, and then I do admit it's very hard. But maybe then, and maybe I'm really naive here, I do, it's possible. But what I mean is, there are areas in our lives, and I hope that is also for you like that. There are areas in our lives where we can create maybe more simplicity, where we can create, or where we can actually less create, I should say, where there is the space of saying, no, maybe I don't need to do that. What's about just sitting here, just enjoying this moment, instead of rushing off doing this, rushing off to meet that person, and rushing off to meet my friend to tell about the retreat. And I think that's one of the things we all like to do. Why don't you invite the friend to come to you, and you sit down with the friend and you share a little bit about your meditation practice by sitting with them. They might not want to do that, I can see that. But I can say I even had that experience with my son. I'm a mother, and my son is grown up, he's 42 now. But when he started to come to visit me at the monasteries, in the beginning he was very, very critical, and what you're brainwashed. What are you doing there? And I said, just come and have a look yourself and just spend some time here. And actually, the first time was a complete disaster because we tried to convince each other that we knew better than the other one. I knew better what was good for him, and he knew better what was good for me. Yeah? So that's a long time ago. That's more than 20 years ago. Now we have come to a point where sometimes he actually, when we are together, and it's not often, but sometimes he says to me, and actually I'm very glad he calls me Metta. He says to me, Metta, do you mind just sitting together and you do a little bit of guidance? And so it doesn't happen often, but it has happened. And actually it does happen. There is a kind of slight increase. Yeah? It comes more often. Maybe also because he gets older, there's more stress in his life, and he actually sees that there are means that I happen to know that I could share with him. And sometimes, of course, it is also just really sitting together and really sharing with an open heart, like where we are, what is happening in our lives. And I feel like when I say invite a friend to you, like that's what I kind of mean, yeah? So really connecting instead of going out and doing something fancy, maybe connecting on a very simple level, but on a beautiful level, yeah? That can maybe be also for yourself and for the other person enriching. Just a consideration. Yeah. And something very important is to really, when you are back, and when you are back in your, how do you say, so to say, normal life, everyday life, see how you can keep the practice going. It's just, you see, like, we sometimes we live to, or some of us live together things to, and we call that a good life, like having an expensive car, having a fancy house, and this and this, and I think we forget that these things actually don't bring happiness, don't bring contentment. And even if you have more of it, it doesn't mean that there is more contentment or more joy or more ease and well-being in your life. Yeah? Sometimes even saying, okay, if I work less, I own less money, but actually I do have more time to enjoy life. I don't need money to enjoy life. Yeah? These are considerations, and I'm not saying you should all quit your job, of course not. But like, it's more like how can we actually take what we understand, what we are getting aware of, how can we actually find ways of implementing that into our lives. So, of course, it's the practice and continuing with the practice, but the practice does not stop here on the mat, yeah, or on the walking path, yeah. The practice, when practice works well, and when awareness, when also like well-being and kindness, compassion, all those beautiful mental qualities, when they get developed, they don't, like their house is not on the mat. Yeah? We take them with to wherever we go. As more they are developed, as more they will become part of our lives. And so I really want to encourage you in your practice, develop those qualities. See what helps you to bring more awareness into your practice, bring more also kindness, the goodwill, the empathy. But then it doesn't stop when you get up from your cushion. Just take it with you. Yeah? Allow it a place, or allow it to settle into this safe inner place, yeah? Wherever that is for you, or that sacred place. And then when you need it, you can, okay, sacred place, safe place, where are you? And kind of connecting with that. And somehow, to some degree, that actually does work. It helps. So I think I have said enough words, and I hope what I have been saying was beneficial, and I do offer that for your well-being.